It's a hot, hot, hot 95 degrees in Coma. The kind of weather that makes the residents of our fair town want to snuggle up and sweat all over someone special in their lives. Gross. This is Coma News Daily, the internet news source portal for the town of Coma. As ever, this newscast is brought to you by Liquid Ham, which reminds you that no one is truly alone if they have their arms wrapped around a piping hot can of liquid ham.
Liquid ham tastes great.
I'm Marybell Davis, Coma blogger, private detective, and amazing person, still hitting it out of the soccer field as the newest and by far the most magnetic personality of all the people reading you the news this week of Coma News Daily.
And I'm Dr. Jimmy, Coma physician, Midnight Ranger, reading you the news as reported this week by the intrepid reporters, editors, producers, columnists, unpaid interns, and assorted hangers-on at Coma News Daily.
How are you this week, Dr. Jimmy?
Why are you yelling?
Oh, well, I know you old people lose your hearing and ability to find love and bladder control.
Excuse me if I stop you there. I have excellent bladder control.
Huh, yeah. Oh, okay. So, the finding love thing was wrong too, or?
Let's go ahead and get back to the news, where this week we learn a thing or two about interpersonal relationships in our town. In our lead story this week, we learn that there are some qualities that can make someone memorable, and one Coma leader learned early that nothing leaves a lingering impression like physical contact. Coma Town Council member Jax Owen, who owns Jack's Used Cars, in an exclusive interview with Coma News Daily, identified some of his key lessons on leadership. The founder of the Hug Club, a recreational group focused on hugs, and a political party called Organizing for Hugs, Owen underscored that anyone can follow some basic steps and improve their connection and appeal with others. On keeping positive focus, Owen says, quote, "Make sure everyone feels like they were the most huggable person you ever met. That means staying in the moment and finishing strong." On flexibility, Owen says, "Learn to hug left-handed and right-handed. Quote, "You'll never know what life is going to throw at you, so be ready to go either way." Owen says to learn to kill with hugs. He says people he can't stand get some of his best hugs. Another life lesson, learn to enjoy. Says Owen, savor every hug like it's your last. You never know when a freak accident will take you away from the opportunity to hug some more. On the subject of peace, Owen tries not to begrudge others their hugs. Instead, he urges everybody, just get in line. On personal effort, Owen underscored that you're only responsible for trying to hug, not for how the hug is received. And finally, on embracing the hug, Owen says, quote, "I used to fear hugging. How crazy is that? Now the only thing I worry about is when I'm going to get my next hug." Hey folks, you know what besides hugging Jax Owen also is famous for? It's his annual monster bike race at the Coma Fairgrounds and Grain Elevator. Summer's slipping away fast, so don't forget to check out these retrofitted bikes locally sourced from your friends and neighbors, and support one of our valued sponsors.
It's the organic race that will blow your mind. Two-wheel endurance insanity at the Coma Fairgrounds and a grain elevator. Sundays, organic bikes free from your friends and neighbors. Sundays, a special appearance by Compost Maker. Get ready to get your sustainable stuff blown off. The monster organic bike call is gonna blow you away with Special Clown.
Rex Organic Bikes is not responsible for the legal status of any of our monster organic bikes, nor are we responsible for any charges stemming from the receipt of stolen property. Please use your helmet, bike responsibly.
Politics has taught us so much about the importance of interpersonal contact. Gross.
Well, yeah, I actually prefer a little bit more personal space.
Okay. I don't know, Jimmy. As someone who's recently had some car-related contact with her fellow Coma residents, I really think you're missing out on everything we have to gain from interacting with others in this town.
Are you referring to when you crashed into those people?
You mean you and those people? Yes. And my little fender bender was nothing compared to the kind of interpersonal contact other Coma residents are about to have. Future News reporter Thomas Stephen John, our Coma News Daily reporter who can see future news developments before they happen, tells us in the next story about the coming political mashup.
Sergeant Sausage to win conflict resolution derby. This is future reporter Thomas Stephen John with this week's pre-news. Robert Sergeant Sausage McGinnis will triumph Saturday during Coma's food-focused annual conflict derby. The event, which uses a team-based car demolition derby, held at the Coma Fairgrounds to resolve sticky social issues moving Coma residents into conflict, has become a crowd favorite. There's nothing like 3,000 pounds of steel to drive your political point home and resolve a conflict, Mayor Dave Anderson said about the event, that also funds Coma High School's driver's education program. Of course, we're under court orders to say this is not an endorsement of aggressive driving, blah blah blah. Which came to this reporter in a peyote-fueled fever dream, surprised McGinnis the most. I'm a horrible driver, and I only agreed to participate again because I was told hot chicks were involved, McGinnis said. But that seems largely untrue for the other teams except for Sadie Cracker. Not sure how I got involved in this, said Sadie Cracker in an over-the-phone interview with children screaming in the background. McGinnis' team, the Meat Lover Mashers, narrowly defeated the Veggie Girls to settle an increasingly acrimonious political debate that has gripped the town in recent months. One of the leaders of the Veggie Girls, Town Councilwoman Natalie Peters, narrowly missed eliminating McGinnis with a nasty T-bone impact while screaming, "It's time to evolve." I just hope I do well enough to honor the memory of my deceased parakeet, Peters said. Between the two of us, he was the real fan of Demolition Derby. McGinnis was able to win largely because of his strategy of alternately pretending his vehicle was already disabled and hiding near the edge of the arena. Sounds about right, McGinnis said.
Wow. That movie Crash was so prescient in so many ways.
Was that the one with Vin Diesel? I'm not usually into Muppets, but he's kind of hot.
How about we just go ahead and go to our next story?
As a community service, Coma News Daily occasionally publish touching tributes or memorials, which is sad because that means someone's dead. The following was written by the wife of a recently passed Coma resident, George Maguire, July 12, 1942 to June 19, 2015. He was a good swimmer. George, my love, God took you in the best way possible, in the pool you love so much, right near the wet bar you installed 2 summers ago. While it was most difficult for me to see you floating like that, I also know that that's just what you would have wanted. I miss you every day. The house is empty of your clothes now that I took them to the dump, and I will always love you until we meet again. Hopefully there are pools in heaven. Your loving wife, Pat. In lieu of flowers, Pat Maguire is requesting that you send money to the Coma Rec Center to help fund their Let's Clean Out the Strange Smell from the Pool summer initiative. That's sweet.
Relationships are sometimes hard, but they're, also full of wondrous possibilities. In our next story, we hear about the fruit of one relationship in town that's almost too much to believe. In what's being described as a first of its kind for medical science, Coma resident Cindy Horncraft announced this week that she's entering the 15th month of her pregnancy, and she expects to deliver any day now in her tiny house where she lives. This has been a very long process, she said, and I would appreciate privacy, particularly from the medical community as I approach my delivery date. She also added, while I understand people are curious, I think this is a case where the fewer questions, the better. According to her husband, Micah Horncraft, his wife discovered she was pregnant nearly 13 months ago. Micah said his wife shared the wonderful news with him a few months ago, and at first he was confused because he'd been traveling for work for at least the last 10 months. Micah says, but then my wife explained it's probably what is called a fertility alignment delay, or FAD. Micah Horncraft said he was unable to find any information on the fertility alignment delay, but his wife was able to provide ample information that helped put him at ease. Quote, she said it's not really understood yet by science, but it's not uncommon for women who are only children and who also sleep on their stomach, Michael Horncraft said. She fits both accounts, so yeah, it makes sense she would be more susceptible than other women. Horncraft was further put at ease after his close friend and neighbor Jack Owen confirmed some facts about FAD. Owen, whose 3,500 square foot house looms over the Horncraft tiny house like a North Atlantic iceberg, said, quote, all kinds of weird stuff happens when a woman gets knocked up. Jax was able to cut through the BS and give me some much-needed straight talk regarding FAD, Horncraft said. Another unusual condition that affects Cindy Horncraft is what she called prolonged period syndrome, or PPS, which extends a woman's period for up to a year. Not everyone, however, is convinced of the diagnosis. Coma physician, me, said that while medicine is constantly discovering new ailments and disorders, I have never heard of FAD. There are some very basic principles in science and human physiology, and it's not possible for something like this to happen to any woman, I said. Horncraft said that he's heard from many doubters regarding his wife's 15-month pregnancy, but he has no reason to doubt the claim and is excited about the birth. Quote, we have more room for a baby in a tiny house since my wife and son have moved into a barn they built next door.
Science and relationships, it's just all so complicated.
Hey, I agree. That's true. And I have spent, my entire adult life studying the human body.
That's gross.
But people still manage to completely surprise me.
Well, one thing we can count on is that people need relationships to get rid of all of their baggage. The following is an excerpt from Coma Freecycling, which was when a person passes on for free an unwanted item to another person who needs that item. From silverware to mobile homes, people worldwide are choosing to freecycle rather than discard. Offer, my husband, near Coma High School. I have a husband to offer. Dimensions, height 6 feet, width unknown, he's large, depth none. Front porch collection close to Coma High School. He is duct taped to an Adirondack chair on my porch. Email dcollins@townofcoma@gmail.com for the home address. You can pick him up anytime. I'm not going to cut him free. Bring your own scissors. You can take the chair too.
It's fascinating what people are just giving away these days.
Wasn't that an ad put in to get rid of you?
Instead of answering your question, I'm going to go ahead and ask you a question. I wonder if the following letter to the editor is actually about you. Have you ever wanted a live-in girlfriend, wife, or employee, but found the whole enterprise cost prohibitive? Well, fellas, have I got a deal for you. My daughter is 5'3", 103 pounds, and in her mid-20s, and I'm told of average attractiveness. I'm offering an on a sliding scale payment program for any of the following scenarios. 1. You hire my daughter for work. My daughter has no practical skills, but is theoretically capable of learning some. 2. You date my daughter. This option only works if you are a self-motivated individual who can take care of her and get her to move out of my house. Again, she has no practical skills. 3rd option. You date and marry my daughter. She comes with a family-owned beach house, no cooking skills, and the ability to organize house cleaning staff. Lots of staff.
That's definitely not me. I'm 102 pounds.
Hey, now it's time for the Medical Mosh with me, Dr. Jimmy. This is a modern scientific dating experiment. 1 medical doctor, 30 dates, and 30 scientific hypotheses. Yeah. Here are some of the results from my first date. This date was a real-world examination of the validity of the FDA's conclusion that less than 10% of U.S. adults eat the recommended daily allowance of vegetables. And if it were true, can it be corrected? I selected this as the first of a series of experiments because it seemed like a simple scientific challenge. I mean, what strapping young lass, and that's an SYL, doesn't love salad or a plain head of lettuce? I arranged to meet up with SYL during happy hour at Coma's premier singles bar / family Chinese restaurant. Me. Do you want to take these drinks over to the dining room and grab some dinner? SYL. I don't really do dinner. Me. Oh well, would you join me while I eat a wholesome, delicious salad of locally scavenged ingredients? SYL. No. Me. Then how about we just grab a veggie platter and, sit right here at the bar and scarf away? SYL. What are you even talking about? Please stop. Please stop now. Some of her, quote, lifelong buds, I go ahead and call them LLBs, stopped by the bar to drink a trough of wine, and we all started chatting. Them, about music, movies, and ways you can inhale white wine. Me, about vegetables. How great are they? How many do you eat per day? Do you prefer raw or cooked? When SYL steps out for a moment, I turn to her friends. Me, somewhat intoxicated. Does she like vegetables? LLB. What do you mean, vegetables? The rest of the night was a blur. After I gave up on getting SYL to switch to Bloody Marys, I focused on ensuring that her martinis had extra olives. So did this medical scientist succeed in getting the SYL to the 3 full cups of FDA-recommended daily servings of vegetables? I have no idea, because the scientific rigors of my double-blind study were thoroughly blinded by Chinese liquors. Despite that, I like to think I helped this young woman achieve at least one day of adequate vegetable intake. My conclusions could best be summed up by the statement that the experience was totes tomatoes.
Sad middle-aged men going on sad little dates with people. That must mean it's time to hear from another sponsor, A Home for Those Guys, Coma's premier assisted living facility for recently divorced men. Summertime means fun time at Coma's premier assisted living facility for recently divorced men. A Home for Those Guys is hosting a slippery, gross, Saturdays all summer long. Visitation time with the kids has never been so much fun, whether it's Vaseline, watermelon wrestling, in the pool, or balloon animals with Spazzo the super creepy clown. Meanwhile, our childless residents can soak in the fun in one of our 3 in-pool bars or the famous Caros Tiki Bar. When the sun fades, the party will get hot with a free show from the Coma Hula Hoos. Check out the Coma community calendar for the sad details. Whether you're a resident, considering a move, or just need something to fill your time, A Home for Those Guys has got you covered this summer like a thick layer of coconut oil.
What news update on relationships could be complete without discussing the politically contentious relationship between a man and his car? This is Today in Coma History, where those who cannot remember the past will be jailed.
This is future reporter Thomas Stephen John looking to the past for this week's piece of Coma history. George Washington invents the station wagon. Although never credited by automobile historians, George Washington invented the station wagon while visiting Coma in 1762. The invention allowed the father of our country to embark on a lifetime of road trips through all 13 colonies. Inventing the station wagon was really the only way Washington could allow every hamlet, burg, and hovel to honestly claim George slept here, said Jax Owen, a local auto dealer and car history aficionado. It was also the only way he could bring the whole family. He had a large family. Washington also invented all leather interiors, including seats, floors, and windows. The challenge of seeing through leather windows was well worth the fat pleasure of chilling in their mink oil-treated leatheriness, Owen said. Early charcoal sketches of Washington crossing the Delaware River atop a floating station wagon were replaced by a boat in later oil paint depictions to avoid distracting from the historic military victory. The Coma Futurist Society recently displayed one of the original charcoal depictions of the Washington Wagoneer as part of its Future Inventions of the Past exhibit. It's unfortunate, but the oil painters managed to whitewash a lot of amazing stuff out of the past, said Mika Horncraft, curator of the Futurist Society. For instance, did you know Alexander Hamilton invented the ham radio?
That's it for Coma News Daily this week, and I just want to say that I love my boyfriend.
Wow, thank you for that.
Yes, and I don't want anyone to think I was talking about you there. No offense, Dr. James.
Oh, well, no offense taken. I don't think anyone...
Let's just go ahead and wrap it up, okay? And remind our listeners to please be good, beware, and be newsworthy, Coma.